No, you don't need the.
I'm doing this my way. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items.
What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and I am joined once again with Alex. With Alex, by Alex. I'm with Alex, and we are joined together. We're going into day one of MSI. The day is finally here. It seems like forever since we had League of Legends, but it's probably a surprisingly short amount of time since Evil Geniuses burst onto the scene as the World Championship favorite. I guess that might just be my opinion, but I'm pretty excited to get back into it. Alex, what are you most excited for tomorrow?
I'm most excited to lose money on the underdogs. I think that there's some real bias towards the favorites, and we're kind of getting some really, really long shot odds that I think are slightly plus EV. But I'm excited to, I guess wake up and see how much money I've lost.
What time does it start? Do you know what time it starts?
Here in Vegas, I think it's 4 a.m. So depending, you can take your time zone and do the math, but pretty early.
I'm gonna maybe be able to watch some of it on the East Coast. So let's get straight into it. So I'm gonna bring up some of the match lines on my phone, but Alex and I have talked through it a little bit already. The first matchup, we have T1 against Saigon Buffalo. Both of us obviously expect T1 to win, but one thing that we're going to talk about a lot in this video is like value. So the way that I do it, and it's a little bit different from how Alex does it, I do things based off of tiers. So I have a tier list where I've ranked every team that's at MSI, and I'm pretty close to where Alex is, and I'm pretty close to where the sportsbook is in general on these teams. So I have the odds of T1 winning a best of one at like 90%. The line is minus 4,000, so there's a ton of value on Saigon Buffalo at plus 950. That's kind of an insane number. So if you're looking to chase value and only play plus EV plays, you want to be on Saigon Buffaloes. I'm not going to bet that. For me, it just feels like I'm lighting my money on fire, and I get all the satisfaction of watching it. Like, if it happens, and I'll get enjoyment out of it. I don't need money on this game to watch it. So, Alex, what do you think about game one?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Model spits out 12.89% for Saigon Buffalo, so that's plus 676. I guess it would be fair.
And is it 950?
Yeah, I mean, as you get the bigger number, like the implied total or implied probability doesn't like change as much, but
if I bet $100, I get $300 more just because they think it's extremely unlikely and they're trying to get money onto it. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not convinced I'm right. MSI is really hard to model. We get so few international events a year that this kind of stuff there's a lot of guessing going on. But I will still probably take maybe a quarter unit or half unit on Saigon Buffalo. Fully expecting to lose. It's going to lose 88% of the time, but when I hit, there it is. Get to victory lap that on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. So that one's not super exciting. The second game is a little bit better. We have Detonation Focus Me against Team A's. So again, I have it as a one-tier differential, so that means I think that DFM is slightly better than Team A's. The sportsbook has it as closer to a two-tier differential for me. So I think that the correct side is A's. And with Detonation Focus Me, I made a lot of money with DFM at Worlds last year. If you were watching my content leading up to Worlds, I was very heavy on DFM because I thought that their showing, I think at last year at MSI, was pretty good. And they were building their team around their mid laner, but they didn't play around their mid laner last MSI. They did a little bit better job of that at Worlds last year. And then it all kind of, like, once they started picking up steam as a team that was performing well at Worlds, then they kind of fell apart and didn't do anything on the main stage, which I kind of expected. Like, when you're playing against lesser competition, you're going to look better. So this is a perfect opportunity for DFM to win early, but I still think that the public perception is too strong. They're too favored in this matchup, according to according to the sportsbook. So if I was going to get money in on this game, which I probably won't unless it's on DraftKings, for like DFS, I think A's is probably the correct side for the EV, for plus EV. But I can't convince myself to bet that. So, Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, almost identical again. I have it as 59.9% DFM. And so when I woke up this morning, I checked lines on Pinnacle, and it was pretty close. I had it as a no bet. But the line has kind of drifted towards DFM. And, it's always scary fading the market or fading Steam, but probably going to fire a small amount on A's. It's kind of funny. I was looking at the comments to the last video, and people were really... the thing they were most nitpicky about was our ordering of wildcard teams or non-major region teams, and I think people maybe got the impression that we were really high on some of them and thought they were way better than the others. But I think that they're all really, really close.
Yeah,
and I think this is a perfect example of a spot that there's value on A's, even though I don't think they're that strong of a team, especially compared to the rest of the competition. But I don't think I see plus 170 in Pinnacle right now. I don't think it should be that far.
Yeah, going back to what people were talking about in the last video, being one tier away is pretty close. All those teams are clumped together for a reason, and I think that people don't. I think that the public doesn't understand how to order their teams correctly into a tier list. So when they see other people actually doing it, it seems like a crazy exercise to them, and they're just really far off. One thing that I would like to do to kind of keep it more consistent is next year or next split, I'm going to try to be more intentional with the letters that I put across region. So if I don't think that a team from the LCS is in the S tier or can compete on the international stage, I'm just not going to put anybody in the S tier, because that might be a way to kind of satisfy the viewer and also give a good accurate representation of how I feel. Because it's very difficult for a team in the LCS or the LEC to get up to that level, or at least to feel comfortable that they belong in that level by playing the level of competition in their region. But let's keep it moving. So next up, we have Order against G2. So Order is a team from Australia, and in general, Australian teams are not very strong. I know that one person is going to come after us in the comments again, saying that we're not allowed to say things about teams unless we watch every single game, which is kind of insane, because that person probably doesn't actually bet on this and wouldn't take the lines that are offered. So right now, Order is plus 700. For those of you out there who don't understand what this means, if you bet $100 on Order to beat G2, you will get back your $100, and then you'll get $700. So if Alex and I are jerks for not giving enough credit to all these wildcard teams, then you should be scooping up all the free money that's out there. I understand that the correct bet in this situation is to bet on Order. It's very unlikely that they are this far away from G2. I have it as a 2-tier differential. And the funny thing is that this line probably doesn't feel that off for a majority of people, because they think that G2 is better. Even if they think that Order is better, they also think that G2 is much better than I do. So that ratio should probably stay about the same. So for me, it's probably a bet on Order, and I could see G2 losing their first 2 games tomorrow. That would be pretty awesome. I would be a big fan of that, because everyone would start panicking, and it really doesn't mean anything. So, do you have anything different on that one?
No, very similar. It's just interesting to me to try and judge the skill level of Order, doing a thought exercise of what's the skill level of Order compared to the worst team in the LEC, like Astralis or BDS, and how much worse are they than that team? And what would you put a best of 1 against those 2 teams? And just trying to think that I don't think for a professional team, it's really hard for them to be significantly worse or this much worse than a team like Astralis or BDS. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard for me to believe that day 1 of MSI on 35 ping, they haven't played against each other before, that they're going to be significantly worse. And I mean, yeah, I just kind of agree with you. I think, again, there's just value on these long-shot underdogs. Not a ton. You kind of make the bet expecting to lose a lot of these bets.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a plus EV play. You do it a million times to make money. So with you there. Definitely betting on order.
Yeah. So I think the other thing that I wanted to mention, when I started playing League of Legends, and this isn't me being salty that I should have like been like a diamond player or something like that, like my first season that I played, I was playing on 70 ping when I started playing League of Legends. I was on the East Coast, everybody's on the West Coast. I'm like in like plat, I think. And I remember there'd be games where like my character is jumping around the screen and I would have to try to anticipate what everybody else is doing and like just do a lot of guesswork. And I was still playing pretty good League of Legends. Now I'm at 35 ping. And it's like the game is not even close to as fast as it is like on a LAN. So I don't really feel that bad for these players. They're playing the way that not a majority, but a lot of people in America play the game. I know that in different regions the ping is a lot better just in general. But, you know, I'm just sad. I wish that I had much lower ping because I feel like I could have done a lot better when I had hands. So that's order G2. Next up, let's go into EG G2. So for me, I have EG and G2 in the same tier. I genuinely do. I'm not sure which one is the right way to say it. But I think that Evil Geniuses is the better team. G2 had a great run in playoffs. People are giving them way too much credit. Broken Blade, good top laner, not an elite top laner internationally. I think that it's possible that he's better than Impact, but I'd be surprised if he was much better than Impact, where he consistently destroyed him in lane. Like, could it happen in a best of one and kind of confirm a lot of the biases that are out there? Sure, that might happen in this game. But if they run it back, I'll be saying the same thing. I just don't think Broken Blade is that much better than Impact. Even when he was in the LCS, were people saying that Broken Blade is like a god and Impact is bad? Of course they weren't saying that. In the jungle, Inspired is definitively a better player than Jankos. That's not debatable. If you're going to come at me in the comments and say that Jankos is better than Inspired, you don't understand League of Legends. You don't watch League of Legends. Go away. Jojo Pyun against Caps. Caps is for sure the better player right now. I have a lot of faith in Jojo Pyun long term. I like his playstyle. I think he's playing well right now. I don't know if he's ever going to be on Caps' level, but he doesn't need to be on Caps' level to go even in a laning phase. Players like Nuke Duck can go even against Caps or beat Caps in a lane because of draft. So I'm hopeful that EG drafts well. We've had some questions about EG's drafting in general this year, but it's been a lot better recently. Hopefully that continues. Then we have Danny and Vulcan against Flocket and Targamas. Danny and Vulcan are better than Flocket and Targamas. That's also not debatable. If I really don't know how to have that conversation in a civil way. It's either you're watching League of Legends or you're not. I cannot imagine. I don't understand how people can come to the conclusion that Flocken and Sargamas are better than Danny and Vulcan. Like, I haven't heard anybody say that explicitly, but the way that people talk about G2, like, one of the things that I said has to be very wrong. And I just don't think that I'm very wrong because I'm me. So, Alex, what do you think? What do you think about this matchup?
Yes, I mean, some great hot takes. I kind of disagree with a lot of what you said. I do think these teams are very, very close. I have G2 as a slight favorite. I have it at about 47% EG, so plus 109 is fair. So this is a no bet for me. I don't really know how to judge these. You know, I'm also hard stuck gold or plat or whatever for the rest of my life, so judging these players is really tough for me. I'll leave the hot take, you know, player X is better than player Y type of stuff. As a North American fan, I would love EG to just crush here. I think it would be great. I love, like, this EG team is really exciting to watch. I have a lot of hope for them, but yeah, I guess in terms of betting, I will probably stay away from this game. I think it's pretty fairly capped. And in terms of hot takes, I will let you take all the backlash from the angry Europeans.
Well, so what's the difference of opinion that you have? Do you have any takes on like an individual player matchup or no?
I think that I just know what I don't know, and I know I'm not a very I recognize that I just have a lack of knowledge game knowledge compared to these guys. I think there's a ton of discussion that can be had about like how modeling League of Legends is different than playing League of Legends.
Sure.
And I think that's a unique point I would make. But in terms of like, it's hard for me to judge lane matchups, I guess is how we'll say. Like, I think Broken Blade's a great player, and like watching him, I think he's a great player. I can't pick apart what he's good at or bad at compared to Impact. And same thing with the bot lane and the mid lane. and it's tough because I know I have these biases from G2 of old, where they just like they look like they're just playing a Fiesta game and they don't know what they're doing, and then bam, they're world finalists.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's tough for me to parse that. And so I guess that's my difference. Is like I don't disagree necessarily that like I don't think you're wrong. I just have no idea how to even approach like Broken Blade is better or worse than Impact type of thing.
Yeah.
I have no basis to make that judgment. I guess.
Yeah, I think that people who like have people like yourself who have some understanding of League of Legends, like playing League of Legends, but then being more focused on the number side of things, there's probably some kind of intermediary that you could use as a data point that would get you more comfortable with saying this player is good, this player is bad. It's just that it's not like as obvious. I think it's champion pool. I think that if you try to figure out a way to analyze champion pools from a data perspective about like how many resources they're being given in a draft, I think that would help at least tell you what the team thinks about the player. Because in order for you to play a variant type of League of Legends, like giving more resources to your top laner, giving more resources to your jungler, whoever's getting the larger allocation of gold, the team is either playing the game mindlessly, which is definitely possible. A lot of these teams, I think, do that, or they're intentionally giving more resources because they believe that this player can carry. So it's one of those things. But then at the same time, you can run into the vitality problem where you have a bunch of players who are good at that type of game where they're getting a bunch of resources. They kind of try to carry the team. But if there's too much of that, there's not enough resources to go around, and it kind of stalls out sometimes. But let's move on to the next matchup. So next match, I've seen it with two different names. Is it Istanbul Wildcats or is it Fast Pay Wildcats?
I have it from my data from Oracle's Elixir says Istanbul Wildcats, but I don't truly know. That might just be a sponsor thing.
Yeah. So this is a 3-tier differential against RNG. So that's obviously a huge line. I think that the sportsbook understand that it's going to be very difficult for people to convince themselves to bet on the Wildcats. So there's a lot of additional value on there. If you can gather the gumption to click that bet button, then you're getting in your money good. But how good? You know, it's if they lose, you're going to feel horrible because you're like, I knew they were going to lose. RNG's so much better. Why would I make that bet? But then if it actually hits, you know, you're not only getting what a fair return would be, you're getting more than a fair return. And that's kind of why we look for these spots in general. My hot takes going into this tournament, I love Bin. I've been a huge Bin fan since Suning made their run at Worlds, or before that. That's one of the reasons they were my dark horses, because I knew that they had a great top laner. Wei is really not that good. He looked very mediocre throughout the playoffs and was getting jungle diffed a lot, but his team kind of picked up the slack a lot of the time. Xiaohu, great player, and there was like an interview recently where Xiaohu said that if I'm not going to be the top laner, these are the 2 top laners that you're allowed to take. If it's not one of these 2 guys, I'm playing top lane. And he said that it was only Bin or Breathe. And Bin and Breathe are 2 of my favorite top laners, so I'm kind of seeing it the same way, which is always nice to feel or to hear. Then we have Gala in the bot lane. Gala is one of the most overrated AD carries in the world. Somebody posted on the video like a week ago saying he has like the highest Aphelios win rate in the world or something like that. Okay. I know that my main criticism of Gala is that he's not a hard carry player. Aphelios is a hard carry champion. If you want to give me Gala on Aphelios versus Viper, Ruler, or a bunch of other players on Jinx, I'll take the Jinx side of that matchup with the better player every single time. And then just leave it to Gala to try to make some kind of outplay to actually win that matchup. He's not going to do it. That would be a big limitation. So that's basically it. I think that obviously everybody thinks that RNG is going to win this match. Wildcats is the correct side if you're chasing value. Not nobody, but it's very difficult to convince yourself to click that button. So what do you think? Are you going to be able to click that button tomorrow?
I have clicked that button so many times, I've lost count. It's just... I don't think, again, really thin spot, probably 5%, 2% Kelly wager, something like it's tiny, and that's if you're going full Kelly. Like,
well, you never
I
go
think,
full Kelly.
Yeah, well, I mean, right? No one knows that. But I think it's, as you said, it's a close spot. It's really thin. You click the button and you just close your eyes. It's day one. It's day one on 35 ping with teams that have never played each other before. I do think RNG is obviously the better team. They're probably going to win 85% of the time, but I think that enough wacky stuff can happen in best of ones. Model agrees. These teams are far apart, but not as far apart as the line is. So just kind of got to take the plunge plus 900 or whatever it's at.
So one thing I would say, I forgot to mention this when you were asking about order against other low table teams, and this might work for Wildcats as well. A better way to do that would probably be find the lines from the LCS when the academy teams played, because they were not as far off from like the main roster as you would think. Like you would probably think to yourself, okay, well, an academy team doesn't belong to be in the LCS. They should be an extremely high line that's probably further away than one of these teams against like a G2, So maybe it's more than that, because you'd have to like have I would have to have my tier list set up the regular way where G2 is like S tier and then put 2 more tiers above it, and that's where like RNG would be. So it would be like a significant difference. Even if you could get like, G2 at minus 300 or minus 400 against like an academy team from the LCS, you'd have to like jack it up even more for the LPL.
I mean, do you even remember what days those were? Because I have historic results.
I don't. Probably better if we do that another time.
Sure, yeah.
But that was that match. So now we're on our last match of the day. We have Red Canids from Brazil against PSG. This one is surprisingly a no bet for me. I thought that I would have the option to bet against PSG in every single game at MSI, and I was kind of like wanting to do it. But this one right out of the gate, the line is dead on. So I don't know if I missed a chance to bet on red, because that's definitely the side that I was leaning towards. But as I've said in other videos, I think that PSG has a lot of goodwill from the public based off of the performances of River and Maple. Most people have not watched this combination of players in an international event, or they haven't played in an international event. So most people haven't seen this combination of players in a game. Is it possible that Juhan and Bay are equal to or greater than River and Maple? Yeah, that's certainly possible. It's a Korean jungle mid duo. Like, if PSG is a very good talent, if they're very good at identifying talent, then yes, I could just be way off on this, and maybe after a day or two, we'll be quickly proven wrong. But probably not. So I wanted to get in on Red Canids. It's at -2, so the line was right on. I'm not going to bet this one, even though I really wanted to.
Yeah, I think I see value on Red Canids. I'm a big PSG Talon fan, and I have a lot of futures on PSG Talon. But again, I don't think they're this far apart. I think it's day one of MSI. I realize I have just said all of the underdogs, but maybe that's not such a bad strategy. I guess that's kind of the theme, is that I don't think that professional teams in general are this far apart that the lines are suggesting. Again, you kind of just make the bet. It's small. I don't have like a large suggested wager here, quarter unit, half unit, but again, you kind of just make the bet and close your eyes and just hope the EV cashes in.
Yeah, that's always a great question. Like, any two teams around the world, completely random, completely differing skill levels, what is the maximum you would feel comfortable betting in a best of one? Like, can you get over 75 to 80%? Like, that's really the question I have, because it sounds like when you hear that number, you're like, yeah, I could see T1 sweeping Red Canids most of the time. it's probably not going to happen like that. Like I feel like the most common outcome in that, the most common one might be 3-0, but it's 3-1 a lot more than you think. You know?
Yeah. Here was an interesting thought experiment I was playing around with before betting. Is what line would you give me that T1 drops a game in groups? Just a single game.
There's 6 games.
Yeah, so in the 6 group games, how often do they lose at least one game?
How often do they win? How often do they lose one game?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a shockingly high number. Is it like 70% of the time?
Well, I mean, that's the experiment, right? Is if you think, okay, I think T1 wins every game at least 90% of the time. If you think they truly win, the best of one, 90% of the time, every game, they're still going to lose a game about half the time.
Yeah.
In 6 games, right? And it's kind of absurd just how inflated the T1 number is. I think for the tournament or for the, there's even a to drop a game for the whole tournament line.
Yeah, they do have that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just kind of this idea that, like, do you really think that they are that good? And, like, do you really think that teams at this level of competition can be that far apart? And, like, trust, T1 is an amazing team. Like, every single player on that team is godlike. But even at 90% of the time, they're still going to drop a game in groups half the time, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you ask people, like, they would say, like, 25% of the time, 15% of the time, 10% of the time, they're going to drop a single game because of how bad people are at statistics. So,
yeah.
I think that there's just kind of like this inherent, one, T1 is kind of getting way too much credit, even though they're an amazing team. Like, they can still be overrated. And 2, just kind of like this misunderstanding of, like, even if they are that good, how often do you think that they accomplish these amazing feats of not dropping a single game the whole tournament? And it's just like less than 1% of the time, right? Like, just not even close. So, yeah, just an interesting thought experiment about how, the stats play out.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's basically it for day 1. If you could only make one bet on tomorrow's slate, what bet would you make?
Wow, that's a good question. I guess my biggest bet tomorrow will be on the Red Canids, probably surprisingly.
Yeah. You can't feel good going into day 1 where you're like, I'm getting it all in on the Brazilian team.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because I have a lot of futures on PSG, but I just think that, like, these teams are pretty close and are maybe a lot closer than the line implies. So, yeah, that would be my bet tomorrow, but not gonna tout like that's a total lock type thing.
Yeah,
that would be my bet.
Yeah, I think that if I was going to play one of these, I would play Order over G2. The one that I want to happen the most is Saigon Buffaloes to beat T1. That would be the best. That would be the best thing possible. Just so, like, imagine how, like, insane the sports books are going to have to try to react after something like that. Like, they're going to hang a bad line for sure after something like that. And then, like, the one match I'm really excited to watch, EG against G2. I really want EG to win that game. Or at least look super competitive where I'm not going to get people yelling at me in the comments. That's all I want to avoid. But yeah, so that's it. So we're going to have another video. I mean, if Alex wants to, we'll have one for day 2, see how we went on day 1. But then we also have some other types of videos coming out in the future. So watch out for those. If you want to follow Alex on Twitter, the easiest way is probably to go to my Twitter, at League of Items, and then look for one of my retweets of LOL predictions, or you can do at JSkelts. One of those ways you'll find him. So that's it. Everybody, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, etc., blah, blah, blah. MSI is here. Happy days. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later.